There you go. Right now. So I'm recording now, and I'll post this later on the group Facebook page.
Beautiful.
I kind of bombarded you with a number of emails in the last couple of days. Have they all pretty much made sense, or has it seemed like overwhelmed?
Well, I joined the Facebook group.
Yep, good.
I ordered the book
Yep,
and I started on your videos. And the exercise that you wanted us to do for today, your future self,
yeah,
it just so happened that I was actually on that video when you sent it to me. So I had already started doing it. And
perfect.
I'm in I do hyperbaric chamber every day for
Yep.
oxygen.
Uh-huh.
I actually today I was finishing up all my my yellow notes. I did all my notes for your so I did everything you wanted me to do, and boy, what a all of a sudden the world is full of possibilities again.
Yes.
No one ever asked me these questions. Like, I'm 63, so I'll be 63 this month, and I'm like, well, I guess there's not too many adventures left, or if there are, they'll come, but putting everything down and seeing it there was so helpful. So thank you for that.
You bet. You bet. Well, that's one of the things I wanted to emphasize for everybody today, and this will be recorded for the others to see. That is that when I designed the program, the Going Pro process, I took the Acorns to Oak Trees video series and made that sort of the backbone of it all. Because I went to Dallas and a company called Tome, like a book, Tome, tomeapp.com. They were producing mostly church related, Christian messages and lessons and courses like that. And they said, we want to do generic lessons, secular lessons for business people and such with a faith kind of an assumption in them, but not about any particular religion or faith. And so they asked me to come to Dallas, and I did. And I went into the studio and I told them in advance, I want this to be a private conversation between me and the viewer. I don't want to do a lesson, a course, a show. I want to talk to the person that's watching, and I want to guide them through a thought process. And I don't even know how many segments we'll do, I told them. But I want to guide them through a thought process that's going to help them get very clear on what they want to do in their life and where their greatest opportunities are currently, and then figure out the best way to start that process rapidly and keep it going. And they said, okay. And so we said, roll camera. And I sat there and they did this, you saw the format. And the interesting thing is, there were only a couple of points where I had to stop and redo. And those were not because of me. They were because the camera crew got caught up in the message and lost their place.
Wow.
And man, that's when you know you're hitting a home run, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so I went out of there floating on a cloud because it had gone over so well. And then when I watched it later and looked at the post-production they had done, nice work.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. And it's not for everyone, but for those it is for, I think it's spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love one of the things early on you talked about desire and possibility. I never looked at it from that perspective. If the desire is in me, that means it's possible for me to get that thing.
Yeah.
And
Not
now I
alone
start,
necessarily,
instead
but
of
it's
looking,
possible. Yeah.
yeah, instead of looking at desires as like, well, we can't really have what we desire. We can't really have what we want. I go, wow, the fact that I even have this desire automatically means that it's possible for me to get it.
That's right. And
That's
it
huge.
means that the life force in you is seeking that as a form of expression. So, wow, why not look for ways to enable it instead of ways to just, yeah, that's nice. Sit down, Sonny. You know, let the
Expand on
adults
that.
talk.
Can you
Yeah.
expand on that? What you just said, the life force within me is looking to express that thing. What does that mean?
Well, I believe when I think about it just philosophically, how do the cosmos fit together? Well, life exists throughout all of creation, okay, in various forms. And I mean, you look at the night sky and you see all those dots, and many of those dots are entire galaxies, not just a star.
Yeah.
But from here, we look like we're so big and we're so important. And from there, we're so hard to notice because we're so microscopic. Well, let's look the other direction. Instead of out that way, let's look in this way. Look at the cellular level. In a cell, you have all the components of a cell. You got molecules, atoms, and even atoms have the nucleus and the electrons and the neutrons, all that going on. Everything going down looks the same and going out looks the same if you step outside your personal selfish point of view. They call those fractals, which I'm sure you're aware of. And fractals, you can observe from, let's say, from a drone. You go to New York City and you just fly above the foot traffic in downtown Manhattan. Okay. And you videotape all that. And then you take that and you hold the recording aside for comparison, and you go to an anthill and you poke a stick near it so it goes like this, and you see the same patterns. And you look at a rainstorm and the droplets, and you see the same patterns. And you take a bunch of sand and throw it on the ground, and you'll see the same patterns.
Huh.
It's just throughout all of existence, these fractals are the ways in which things organize themselves. If you look inside a snowflake or a leaf, or in the eye of a housefly, as Buckminster Fuller once did, you see the same patterns that work. The way Fuller discovered the geodesic dome structure, which is in engineering the strongest and lightest weight structure known to man.
Wow.
He discovered it by studying the structure of the eye of a common housefly.
Wow.
And he found that it's made up of tiny little triangles, and the triangle in engineering is the strongest geometric shape.
Oh, okay.
So a geodesic dome is just triangles put together, and you could do it out of PVC pipe, plastic pipe, or you could do it out of metal or whatever. And it's going to withstand things more than if you built a standard home or building of even stronger materials.
Fascinating.
So, okay, so what does that have to do with you and me and desire? Well, there's the life force, which is energy and is very hard to measure compared to the material structure of all things, because that's easy. You could even photograph it. Whereas the life force is energy, and you have to approach that differently. Well, how does the life force of the cosmos express itself? Through plants, through animals, through dogs, through people, through, name it, right? So, okay, well, yeah, but we as humans can create life. No, we can't. It's impossible for us to create life. We can be a vehicle for the creation of life, but we can't say, I'm going to create life and go reproduce because we decided to. Because even if you do artificial insemination, it's not necessarily going to become a life.
Right.
That's the most reliable method we know artificially, but it's not necessarily going to work. So couples that have tried for years in a loving relationship to have a child unsuccessfully end up adopting. Couples that were together for a one night stand in a drunken stupor end up with a child sometimes. Well, they didn't want it. So who's in charge here? Well, evidently the life force, God, chooses, right? Okay, so fine. Yeah, and we're part of the process. So the same thing that's true for creating a baby or for a plant emerging out of the sand, I think applies to our dreams.
Hmm.
When you think about what you sincerely want, not a desire like for pleasure or sugar or something like that, but a genuine desire. I want to make a difference. I want to save humanity. I want to add smiles to the world. I want to make my mark and be one of the people that truly enhance the world while I was here. I want to be an Olympic gold medalist. I want to whatever. I think that is in its essence the same as those other things. And so it's looking for an outlet, and you're the chosen vessel. So
Ah,
become a
wow.
better doorway.
That is amazing. So it's almost like there's this force, and even taking out of the religious context of just saying this creative force
Yeah,
of life that is permeating everywhere and is just seeking to express itself in infinite forms of creativity in a positive sphere,
yeah,
then you become the sphere, the vessel by which it can manifest the things that you can do. And it's
exactly.
like it's like trying to get like water trying to get through cracks. That's great. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. I
Well,
love
it's
that.
like a desire comes up in your heart and soul, and you say, "Yes, master," and you obey. You do the homework, you practice the scales, you whatever you need to do in order to allow that to be expressed through you. See, for me,
Oh,
I do that through my guitars and singing, as well as through my work as a thought leader. And it, man, there's so much to say about all that.
it's
I don't.
almost like instead of thinking that, in other words, it's like assisting the flow instead of suppressing it, assist it to get out and learn everything you need to learn to actually assist it in its manifestation of that
Yeah.
creative thing. As a,
Because it's already there. You don't have to make it happen.
yeah.
You just have to be the vessel that you need to be for it to happen. Like take a singer like Celine Dion, unbelievable singer, absolutely gifted with the ability with the possibility of being one of the world's great singers of all time. But until she did all of the developmental work to become a good vehicle, she was not able to express that
Mm.
except in primitive ways, right? And her music will be treasured for eternity. It's that good. So the same thing's
Amazing.
true for you and me. All right. So that means I don't have to think it up. I have to discover it.
Mm. I love that. That's great.
And discovering it means to listen better. Listen to your heart, listen to the world, look for patterns, be more, as I say, intelligently curious. Intelligent curiosity, which
Ah,
means knowing what to wonder about, noticing patterns,
ah,
and when you notice a pattern, try to discover the principle behind the pattern. For example, when I let go of this, it always falls down. It never falls up. Huh. Everywhere. Everywhere I go, I do that. Same result. That's a pattern. I wonder what the principle is. And then I discover gravity.
mm.
And then I ask, okay, why does gravity exist? And then I find out all these dynamics about the world spinning around and, orbits. Good Lord, way more than I want to know. But you can always ask, and why is that so? Really? And what made that work? Oh, and then what makes, how come this is appealing to people? What is it addresses? I sent a handout to you, an email today that you can download later. It's just basically my outline for this discussion. And we already dove into the deep end of the pool early in the discussion, and I love this. But the purpose of Going Pro, the experience, is to achieve three things for each person that's in it. One, absolute clarity.
Mm,
And that, if that was the only one, that would be good enough right there.
absolutely, yeah.
Because a lot of people say, well, no, I'm clear on what I want and what works and what, yeah, you think so? Let's talk. And the more we talk, the more they say, well, I don't know yet, or I'm not sure about, and that, so I always ask, and why is that so? And what's behind that? And what's that based on? And what's it really about?
Mhm.
For example, one of the exercises that I did at a recent mastermind was, what are you paid to do? And let's take an example. One of my favorites is a security guard in a gated community. Okay. When I pose the question, what are you paid to do? And I say, you're a security guard in a gated community, people almost always say, you're in charge of protection, security. That's what you're paid to do. Well, okay, let's look at a security guard in a gated community. How many of the residents that live in that community does the security guard see in a typical week? All of them. How often? Some of them every single day. And so should the security guard in every case challenge them? What's the password? Step forward and identify yourself. That's going to keep the neighborhood secure, right? No. So the security guard has two jobs. One is to keep the bad guys out, and another one is to make the good guys happy that they're in.
Oh, okay.
And that's the part that gets overlooked. So security guards that act like Nazis, everybody hates them, but they figure it's a necessary evil. No, talk to the Nazi and say, hey, lighten up, dude. We're friends. You recognize me. Every day I come in here, you know me. You know my address. You've probably driven by it in your rounds late at night. So next time I come in, please say, hello, Jay. How's it going today? And I'll say, just fine, thank you. And I'll go on in and I won't take any extra time. But for heaven's sakes, don't make me feel like I'm sneaking past the guard. So you've got two jobs you're paid to do if you're a security guard. One is hospitality, and the other one's security.
Awesome. That's a cool way.
Okay. So that really broadens the understanding. It's not only what do you do, but why do you do it and who do you do it for? And does that require you to do it differently sometimes?
Mm,
Okay. Let's take another simple example and then I'll stop this. A beautician, a hairstylist. When a woman goes to a hairstylist, what is the hairstylist paid to do? Answer, style her hair. Wrong. That's like saying that a driver is paid for turning the steering wheel. No, they're paid for safely getting to the destination, right? So a stylist is paid for two things. One is to cause the client to feel proud of how she looks
right.
after she leaves the shop. Okay? So it's a self-esteem enhancement thing, to feel proud of how she looks when she leaves the shop. Number two is for her to feel welcomed and nurtured while she's there.
Hmm,
because it's a spa experience,
right, right.
right? So didn't that change the job description?
Oh, totally, totally.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shops where they believe their job is to style hair and sell product, and they do that.
Yeah.
But the people feel like they went to a car wash and the machine did them and they left,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
So that's the thing. When I look at you or me and I look at the career we're trying to build, then I ask the question, what are we really trying to do? Well,
Mm,
my mission statement on the wall in my office in La Jolla, when I had a full-time staff, said, our mission is to make life better for people profitably. And prior
oh,
to,
I like that last word there.
yeah, because if it's not profitable, we have to stop doing it because we run out of resources.
Yeah.
So profit is an honorable thing that is necessary, but profit is to a business as blood is to a body.
Mm,
It's not the purpose of the body, but without it, and if it's not circulating, the body dies. And if the money is not circulating, the business dies. Because money in a box is useless. It's just inventory.
yeah.
So that's the way I oriented my staff. And they hated when I would go to a meeting, like the one that we were together at. I'd come back home and they go, oh God, he's been to a meeting. We're going to have a big discussion. Oh, what now, Jim? And I would say, I was talking with Jay the other day and I I thought, I never saw it that way. So we're going to redo it. Blah, blah, blah. And they go, all right, all right. But we had a great time and did a lot of good over, many, many years.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of that. And clarity, number one goal for going pro. Number two is kind of a fruit of clarity. What does clarity produce? Confidence. Because when you're really, really clear on what you want, you don't waver. You don't say, well, I think, or, would you mind if I kind of offered my point of view? Well, no. If you're clear, you just state it out there, right?
Right.
Like we were at a trivia night at a local honky tonk bar that owned by some friends of ours here in Texas. And this was just last night. And there was one of the questions that came up and I knew the answer. And my wife didn't, and she was uncertain of the answer. And I said, no, here's the answer. And she said, well, I said, no, I'm absolutely certain. There's no question whether I'm right. This is right. And we had another person at the table with us, a friend. And my wife said, well, I said, no, I'm absolutely dead clear. This is the right answer.
Right.
She said, okay. And it was the right answer. Well, when you're that clear, your confidence is unshakable.
Oh.
Same thing's true in your career. When you're absolutely clear on the value that you're here to bring and the way that works for other people to use it, your confidence never wavers.
Right.
And the next level beyond confidence is courage. Meaning you go into a situation and you're just totally unshakable in your confidence, but then here comes a huge, scary challenge. Like you lost everything, right? Well, did you go running down the street with your hair on fire and say, I give up, I'm going to be homeless and live in a box? No, you went back, licked your wounds, went through the healing process and looked at next possibilities, and kaboom, there it came out of the blue based on what you had done previously, right?
That's right.
So that's where courage comes in. Courage allows you, when you see absolutely no indicator of hope, to still have hope. Because courage is facing fear, despair, and uncertainty with a reserve of confidence anyway.
Right.
And you don't get courage without having taken a few blows. you know, and you don't get confidence without some pretty in-depth thinking and working through all this in your mind and heart.
You know, it's like last week, my oldest daughter, we were trying to demonstrate to my granddaughter the idea of falling backwards and you'll catch them.
Yeah, the trust
You know that
fall,
exercise? Huh?
trust fall.
Right.
Yeah,
And my daughter had confidence that I would catch her. And therefore she could display the courage just falling backwards because of that confidence. So I'm trying to apply what you're saying to little things in life. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true. You're right.
Yeah. And there are people who have that confidence to fall backwards based on the wrong assumptions, and they end up crashing to the floor. Right? There have been some
Ooh.
performers on stage who have wanted to do a mosh pit dive into the audience, and the audience didn't catch them. And that hurts. So that's why I'm so absolutely militant about clarity. So when you look at the lineup of all the things in the Going Pro process, I put in there a whole, well, I'll finish my thought. I put in there a lot of exercises. Let me go back to finish another thought. The Acorns to Oak Trees video are not lessons in a course, even though I've used that language sometimes. What they are is private sessions. And the worst use of that program is for someone to watch all 16 of them and say, got it. That was good, Jim. Thank you.
That's a Coursify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the professional growth Acorns to Oak Trees. And it's 16 short lessons, as you know. So the purpose of those is for them to be treated like private consultations where it was just you and me. And I want people to go through those as often as they think it would be useful for them to go through them. So some people, like last go round of Going Pro, there was one woman who watched a few of those 3 or 4 times each. You know, that's a lot of focused time, but it helped her achieve a breakthrough. And she called me up and said, I have graduated. I'm not done with all the exercises yet, but I got my degree inside and I'm ready to go conquer the world.
Wow.
And God bless her, she's doing it, you know, so good for her. But yeah, the worst thing someone can say to me is, I watched all your videos. No, don't watch them. Dive in 100%, you know, full body immersion into each one of them, and let's think together, and then do the exercises. And you got the workbook. I sent that to you, right?
Did you send it to me?
Yeah, PDF.
Okay, then I got
Workbook
it.
that
Yes.
goes with it. Yeah. And they did a nice job on that workbook. So that you understand the structure of Going Pro, I have taken VIDAH as my little mantra for how I structure the emphasis of the various
VIDAH?
parts. Yeah, it's in the document. You don't have to write it down.
Okay.
In the Word doc that I sent you a moment ago by email. Valuable. So one of the things I lead people through is looking at everything they do and intend to do and pose the question, how is it valuable to the recipient? So not what's my speech about, but what value does the listener get from hearing the speech or participating in this presentation?
Right.
So one, valuable. And then that begs the question, how can I make it more valuable to them without increasing the cost to me? So you look at across the board, everything you do, how can I make it more valuable to those affected by it? The users, the consumers of it. Second, how can I be more intentional? That's the I. More intentional in every moment of my life. Not to the point that you can't relax, but to the point that you've reflected on that and you've thought about the best way to approach it. And that allows you to let go of all the other options of how to approach it and be focused and just go with the flow. Like when I'm playing guitar, I don't pick up the guitar with a particular song in mind. My intention is to play, not work guitar. If I work guitar, I'm going to practice a particular song or pattern. If I play guitar, I'm looking for joy in my soul and I want to express it better. And so I practice whatever song comes up. And I tend to, just as a mental exercise, I tend to practice the songs that I haven't sung in a long time without notes. So if I'm picking up the guitar right now, maybe I'll play Don't Think Twice, It's All Right by Bob Dylan, because I haven't done that in a while. And I'll sing it all the way through and play it all the way through without going to check sheet music or lyrics, just to make sure I've got it solidly in my brain. And I do have about 500 songs that I could play right now without notes.
Wow.
But it took me a long time and a lot of practice to get to that point.
Sure.
And from time to time, I forget some of the chord changes or some of the specific lyrics, or this verse goes before or after that verse, like Hotel California or something. Maybe I'd do it in reverse, or American Pie, a longer thing, more complex. But it just seems to be a very good discipline for me, and it's joyful to me. So first is valuable. Second is intentional. Next is disciplined. How can I approach this in a way that, without making more work out of it, has more discipline built into it? So can I use a form, a checklist? Can I do it at a particular time of day? Can I always do it in a particular place or with a particular person, so that I'm disciplined about how it goes, which makes the next one, that was VID.
So
The
just for 1 second, let's take your example of the song.
Okay.
And the first one is value. Is that value for you or value for the person hearing it? But if you're practicing for yourself, then who are you bringing value to at that moment? Is it just yourself, or is it future value to somebody else when you eventually?
I'm actually, when I'm playing and singing, I'm thinking of the listener. So
Okay.
I'm trying to make it a genuine expression of the song, not the sounds, but the meaning, the intent of the song.
Yeah.
Like if I'm doing Buddy Holly, then I'm going for joy and fun. If I'm doing John Denver, I'm going for touch the soul and inspire the spirit. If I'm going for Elvis, I'm rocking the room, and Neil Diamond, I'm trying to relate to the heart in a way that has a steady beat to it. So that kind of thing.
And then you
So
put the intention into that, of the intention of that it's going to go to somebody else eventually. So there's an intentionality in your practice, and then you have a certain discipline that you use to practice. Maybe I'll practice this note, and the transitions I'll practice them until the transitions are smooth. There's a discipline involved. I see.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then the next is A, which is accountable. The more I'm intentional and disciplined, the more easily I can be accountable, meaning accountable to myself. And also, if it's examined by somebody else, they will validate that, yes, this is what's going on. So in other words, it boils down to always tell yourself the truth, the whole truth, and make the truth impossible to ignore. So it's like, if I want to be held accountable for financial behaviors, I put it on the wall in the hallway where everybody sees it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's accountable. So I want to take that concept, not that action, but that concept, and apply it to whatever I do that's important. And then the final item is H. I want to look at every single thing I do behind closed doors and out in the open, and look for ways to make it more honorable. Do it with dignity, do it with compassion, do it with integrity and ethics.
Right.
People say, this is a person, and these are actions that I can respect, admire, and emulate.
Yes,
That's VIDAH, valuable, intentional, disciplined, accountable, and honorable.
I love it. I love it.
If you look at the funnel, going pro, what's a pro? It's a person who is highly educated for what they do. Their education never ends and they're constantly refreshing it, done for pay, done as a service to other people, and done according to a set of ethical standards. Okay, that's what a professional is. Going pro, what's the purpose? To get absolutely crystal clarity, so that your confidence grows and you develop courage to face anything the world can throw at you. How do you do that? By focusing on VIDAH. Okay. And then the next step beyond that is to look at the single question that you will be asked every day, every moment of every day of your life for all eternity. What do you want? Okay. And by the way, the what do you want question literally is asked in every moment. When you're walking in a crowd.
That's good. That's really good. You're right. Every moment, what do you want?
Yeah.
The common denominator of life.
And if you know what you want, then you've got to know what you want. Second, you've got to express what you want so that the world can see it, understand it, know it, be aware of it. And then you've got to act on what you want so that you show that you're serious. You're not just turning on a turn signal in traffic. You're actually going to turn.
Right.
Because if you don't turn, then other people are basing their moves on the likelihood of you turning.
You know that you want to turn, then you show people that you want to turn with the left signal. Then
Yeah.
you do the turn.
Yeah. And if you don't, there's a chance of an accident because the other people thought you were.
Right.
And that's kind of like the same thing in couples therapy. Well, I thought you, blah, blah, blah. Why did you think that? Well, because you said so-and-so. Well, I didn't mean it. What? You said it and you didn't mean it? How about we tell each other the truth? Okay.
So as a leader in my company, when I get together and I say, and I first know what I want, then I show them all what it is that I want, and then we act on it with tactical or strategic plans. But if I don't really know what I want and I show something different than what I really want, because I don't know what I want, like I say, hey,
right,
we're going to do a marketing campaign here, and I've shown this one thing, like the left turn signal, and everybody's on board, and then I don't do that.
right.
Failed in that, yeah.
And
Wow.
what that brings up is an integrity problem. Integrity meaning everything integrates perfectly with everything else.
Yeah.
So integrity is not about being a good guy. It's
And that's
about
a
being
great definition,
consistent
by the
with
way.
what you've committed to.
I gotta stop you and say, you throw out so many truth bombs. To you, it's like
Water.
talking about like what you had for a meal.
Yeah.
Right? But to me, each one of these are food dishes that I've never experienced before, and I'm going, whoa, hold on, let me digest this for a second. Yeah. This is great. Integrity, where everything aligns with everything else. That means everything in my life.
Yeah.
How I act with my family, how I act in my business, how I act as a person to the person on the street, how I act as
a neighbor, as a member of the homeowners association, everything.
It has to align. I have to be consistent in all aspects of my life. That's great. Wow.
Yeah. And when you think of integrated, that it makes more sense out of that word. So here's the process. The process is clarify what you want, determine how to express it best, and this is all in the notes. Take the first action, figure out what the first best thing is to do. Know where your best payoffs are so that you can focus on the things that get you the results instead of focusing on the things that someday will build up to whatever gets you results. And then set your priorities based on what you want and the urgency of it. And then put your energy into your passion and make sure that if you've got it, like as a speaker or an author, that your message is an expression of everything I just described, that is coming from your passion, from your soul, from what you really care about and believe. So that your message then it appears in whatever media you have, whether you're writing an article, standing up at a meeting to answer a question, giving a speech, writing a book, or doing an interview. Your message is the same or consistent throughout. And then you expand your network of the people that are receiving and participating in your message. Hey, Kevin. And that leads to fulfillment. Kevin Davis, meet Jay.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey Jay, sorry guys, I just landed, gotten back from Denver and just got in my car. Thought I'd catch the
Oh,
last little bit.
good to
Yeah.
see you. Well,
Awesome.
I sent you an email that has sort of a exhaustive outline of what I'm talking about today. And Jay and
Okay.
I have been having a fascinating discussion. We went deep early, kind of like dove into the deep end of the pool, and then we're swimming to the wading pool bit by bit.
Awesome.
And so you'll be able to see that in the replay of this, which I'll post on our group Facebook page. And both of you are now members of that Facebook page, so you can access it easily.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I just moved to a next point in this, and I'm going to get kind of quick about this part of it because I could go for hours because this is the essence of everything in Going Pro. The exercises designed to get you the clarity, the confidence, and the courage you need to be focused on the things that pay off the most start with the future you, where you, even though you've done exercises like that in the past, you're articulating everything that matters to you about how the future unfolds as best you can say it today. And then I'll look at that and I'll give you feedback on that and help you say it even better. Well, the future you, one way of expressing it is the second exercise, which is reputation creation. Look at everybody you could have a reputation among, your coworkers, your community members, members of your church, family members, your clients, your colleagues, your suppliers, everybody, even your own kids, you have a reputation among those people already. Well, it may not be what you want it to be, but it exists. Okay. So if you want it to be different, that exercise gives you a way to articulate it in a really concise little statement so that you look at each of the groups and you say, this is what I want them to either think or say when they're thinking about me.
Wow. Okay.
If I'm not there. So it's definitely not seeking compliments. It's what do I want them thinking or feeling or saying about me when I'm not there to hear it. And like I said, I want my son to say, my dad would give his life for me. He loves me more than life itself. And he is a man of integrity, and I want to grow up to be like my dad. And my dad says he wants to grow up to be like me. So that's the phrase that I wrote, reputation creation for my son. I hope that's in his heart and head, but that's what I'm working to get there, right? So the same thing would be a similar kind of a statement for a client or for a colleague or for a friend. So your future you leads to the reputation creation, which is just getting more specific. And then I've got an exercise that is the coolest thing. Years ago, I had to do a big new job. And it was a volunteer job. I was becoming chairman of all conventions for the National Speakers Association for no pay. I had zero budget. So the association had a budget, but I didn't. And so I had to look at my livelihood and determine, what am I, how am I going to balance all this? So I created a pretty amazing little matrix where I listed everything I could be doing with my life. I could be real estate investing. I could be becoming a paid performer, doing gigs, musically. I could be a media personality. I could be just an author and sell books and be known as an author. I could, et cetera. And I listed all these things on a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet I created had me measuring the emotional appeal of each, the financial payoff of each, the leverageability of each, the resale value or potential of each, the urgency, the amount of energy required, the cost of doing business in that niche, all of those and more. And then I put it into a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, so that you can do it and fill in all these little things and then hit total, and it'll give you a summary of which ones are the strongest and which ones are not. And of course, it doesn't make your decision for you. It just narrows the field and says, look, you can still choose this one that's got very little potential. If it's that important to you, you should just do it knowing that it's going to take away from the other things that you say matter more to you. See, so that. And then the next thing I've got is an exercise. What are you paid to do? What's the real net effect, final result, impact that you're paid to do? And then another one, which is an exercise where you can isolate the top 1% of the people in the lane that you're traveling.
Oh,
So
okay.
like Kevin, if you want to be earning $1 million a year as a professional speaker and subject expert, then it really helps to know what are the top 1% of the people in that $1 million category doing today, and what parts of what they do you like and see for yourself, and which parts do you think, no, that part's definitely not for me, which is fine. I don't want to be like Tony Robbins, but I'd love to have his income. There are things he does that I admire, and things he does that I wouldn't enjoy at all. So I don't want to be like him. I want to learn from him. I want to be like the future me. I want to evolve instead of change. So evolution means I'm becoming more of what I'm capable of becoming. Change means I'm trying to grow from an acorn into a weeping willow tree. Not
And you brought
possible.
that up in the NSA meeting. You talked, the woman asked, well, she said, well, how do I maintain my authenticity? And I remember you said, you're as you go through this process, you're becoming more and more yourself.
Yes.
You're not losing yourself. You're expanding and evolving into more of yourself, which I
Exactly.
love that concept.
Yeah. Into the wonderful creation that you began as. When everybody looks at a brand new baby, they go, oh, it's a miracle. Look at that. The most beautiful thing. Yeah, wow. Right. And then it gets a little older and still cute and you love it. And, and then it gets a little older, becomes a teenager, and you think, dang, well, I wonder if we could run that back through,
We turned the sender.
Okay. So the rest of this process, to summarize it pretty quickly, is after the top 1% analysis, you look at what's the most valuable thing you do that you're capable of doing right now. What does the marketplace value the most of what you do right now? If you have to leverage something, that's the thing to leverage. And then it goes into an efficiency set of 3 or 4 exercises. One is, what should I stop, start, increase, or decrease? That's pretty obvious and simple. Next one is a project planning guide that you can use for any new thing that you're going to take on. Another one is a delegation worksheet, so that you can identify what can be delegated and what ought to be delegated, but is not yet delegatable. And how do you make it delegatable? Well, you have to find an eligible receiver and make them more eligible. Because if they're not downfield and in the open, you're not going to throw them the ball yet. They might be the best player you ever had, but they're not downfield and open. So how do you delegate more? And then there's one where one of my clients called and said, man, I just took a financial hit that is devastating. What do I do right now to generate money? I'll do anything. And so I generated a structure for him and me to work on it called urgent problem solving. And it's a brainstorming and problem solving kind of an emergency format. And then the next one goes back into, what do you care about, and the real soul of you? What's that seeking? It's your passion and purpose. That's an exercise. And then we look at your inner circle. everybody is a reflection to some degree of the people they spend the most time with. So we'll look at who's in your inner circle and who's in the outer circle. And should any of them switch positions? And are there any talents or skills or abilities or attitudes missing from the inner circle that you need to go shopping for?
Wow.
And are there any of those same things in the inner circle that you ought to get rid of? Like I had a guy on my team years ago, and a consultant came in and worked with my little staff of 6 or 7 people. And he said, Jim, come here. He said, this guy's got to go. I said, why? He said, because every day he comes in with a bucket of poison and laces everybody else's drinks.
Hmm.
He said, the guy's killing you. It's slow poison, so you don't feel it that much. But he is the antithesis of what you're trying to create. And I knew he was right, but I hadn't faced it. And so I was just tolerating this guy and doing workarounds because I didn't want to fire him. Because I knew that, first off, he was a genetically committed loser.
Mm.
The idea of success terrified him so much that he would have become an alcoholic instead.
Wow.
I mean, he really, really hated the idea of succeeding. He was success phobic. And so because of that, he was a cynic, and he brought up doubt in every situation.
Yeah.
So I had to be careful what meetings I invited him into. So that's, inner circle exercise about building on your strengths, finding new talent, and managing the existing personalities in your world intelligently and compassionate.
I just as a side note, I brought somebody in for that very reason into my inner circle recently. He's amazing. His name is Jim Cathcart.
Bless your heart. Well, the next thing in that is an exercise that's related to the inner circle only. And the question I pose is, of the people that matter in your life, which is your inner circle and then your outer circle, the way you know the difference is inner circle, if one of them left, you'd have to replace them.
Ah,
Outer circle, if one of them left, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. You might miss them, but that'd be about it. So inner circle, you must have these people to get your goals achieved. And these are the people you treasure and care about, or care about what they do. So here's the question for people in your inner circle, and for that matter, in all people in your life. Who is glad that they know you?
hmm.
Not who do you know, not who do they know, not who knows you. Who's glad they know you? And we go deep into how to make them glad that they know you.
Hmm.
Okay. And then the next is, where's the book in you? So we go back to looking at your core message, and then we look at how to structure that in a book or a series of books or whatever makes the most sense, or articles, or, there's 1,000 forms of what a book is. It could be videos. And then the next is the thought diet, and then a map to better decision making that I got from Dr. Spencer Johnson, who wrote Who Moved My Cheese and The 1 Minute Manager with Ken Blanchard. He was my neighbor in La Jolla for a long time.
Wow.
And I worked with him on one of his books on decision making. And then the final exercise, and it's not final in the sequence, it's just the final in this list, is identifying your self-limiting beliefs
Hmm.
and eliminating them. And a lot of this I have gotten from couples therapy. Because if you look at couples therapy, it's basically human relations on an intimate level.
Yeah.
And I studied the Association of Couples for Marriage Enrichment, Drs. David and Vera Mace, back in the 1970s. And I studied a number of other things for marriage communication. And I've been to some retreats with Paula and been through some workshops. And I've also led some courses on family life development over the years. So I took the principles from that and I put it into this course. And it comes up in the inner circle portion where we're talking about the 3 essentials for a healthy relationship. Both parties are committed to the success of the relationship, because you can't carry it by yourself for long. Open communication, meaning you tell the truth when it's bad news as well as when it's good news. And you always tell the truth on both of those. And third, you have clear agreements as to what you expect from each other. And
Can you say the three, both people?
it's in the printed item
Okay,
for you.
great.
Okay. And all of this is based on the assumption that you care about each other. Because if you don't, it's all just an exercise in futility because it's not going anywhere anyway. Right. And the same thing's true for your employees. If you don't care about them, don't spend weeks at a time doing communication therapy with them. Just cut the cord and help them find a better opportunity. Right.
Right.
And then something I've observed, and I'm cramming an awful lot into this session, and I apologize for it being information overload, but I just want to create something that you can watch again and again and get a thorough understanding of what all this is about. And here's the item. I have observed just recently that misery always begins with thinking only about you. Misery always begins with thinking only about you. There have been people in combat who have sustained enormous injuries and continued to fight without reduction in vigor, despite the injury, because they weren't thinking about themselves. They were thinking about achieving the goal or defending the castle or whatever the heck they were doing, right? The same thing is true in non-physical ways. So what is called reluctance? It's the fear that you're not going to be regarded well by the potential buyer. It's the fear of embarrassment, not the fear of not making a sale. It's the fear of embarrassment. Okay. What is stage fright? Same exact thing. It's thinking about you instead of your audience or your message. Well, there's no such thing as stage fright. Yeah, that's true. There is not stage fright, nor is there a fear of public speaking. There is no fear of public speaking. Let that sink in. There's a fear of being judged. Period. That's it. And how do you cure that? You stop thinking about you. Think about why you're there and how you can help them and how they'll hear this and what they might do with it and that sort of thing. The more you can get outside of you, the more all that goes away. In a relationship, a one-to-one relationship, like if we were partners, if I went for a long time and didn't bring up something that really, really needed to be discussed, that's called gunny sacking in psychological circles, carrying around on a gunny sack on your back and never dealing with it. And every time something else comes up, you throw it in the gunny sack and it keeps getting bigger and bigger until it overloads. And then you dump it all on the same day. Kaboom. Like in a couple's relationship, the guy says, I don't think I want Mexican food tonight. And the spouse says, you always did like your mother better than me. What? You remember that time 37 years ago when we were going over to Bob and Edna's house and you said on the way there, da, 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 and this happened and that happened? Well, let's come home to roost, baby. And all of a sudden they're dumping 1,800 years of vitriol on you. And it was all sparked by one little meaningless moment of you not wanting Mexican food tonight, right? So that gunny sacking, why is that gunny sacking symptomatic of the same thing? Because the person that's doing the gunny sacking, whether it's you or the other person, is only thinking about themselves. They're throwing you into the adversary category in their mind or heart and thinking you're the bad guy, they're the victim, and poor me. Okay, I'm not going to say anything now, but sooner or later, by golly, we're getting even. And so that's what that's all about. It's thinking about you. So here's my prescription. Phi 888. Phi, F-I, 888. What in the world is Phi F88? It's something I thought up while I was laying in bed this morning. I swear this is true. this morning, March 1st, 2024. I thought it up this morning. Here it is. What most people tend to do, most miserable people tend to do, is first thing they do is defy the other person. Second thing they do is irritate the other person. Then they isolate, push away the other person, and then they abdicate responsibility for making it better.
Ah,
And they say, it's not my fault, it's yours, and you have to fix it. And I'm going to wait for a while. Okay, so that's the misery index. If you want it to turn out positively, the formula is Phi 888. Instead of defy, irritate, isolate, abdicate, it is clarify what really matters, what's really going on here, what's the cause behind the cause, what's the why that underlies all of this, what's that about, right? And then communicate clearly to the other person what you've clarified, and then initiate positive action, and then negotiate differences. Negotiations built on the assumption you care about the other person.
ah,
Okay. If you don't care about the other person, negotiation is simply manipulation, exploitation. If you do care, it's negotiation. I've had people say to me, "Oh, so what's your price?" And let's say my price is $20,000 for something. And they say, "Well, is that negotiable?" "Sure. What'd you have in mind?" $4,000. Well, that's not negotiation. That's unilateral price drop. Negotiation is where you offer something that fills the gap between 4 and 20. And if I feel like it's worth that $16,000 differential, then I say yes. And that's negotiation. Otherwise, it's just simply exploiting each other. So here's your homework. You've already heard it. And your homework, you back with us, Kevin? So you're there you
Yeah,
go.
yes, sir. I'm
So-
driving, losing signal. So
No, understood. So here's the homework. Do the future you exercise, actually write that out or type it out or whatever and send me a copy. And the reputation creation after you've done future you. And when you send those to me, then we can review them and I can give you feedback and help you get beyond getting an A on the future you exercise because I don't care about how well you do it. I care about how well it works for you. And I've had people who've gone through this at previous Going Pro sessions, and they've said, "Oh, now I get it. Oh, well, I need to go do that again," because they were thinking that they just needed to fill in answers. Like how many children in your household, what's your annual income, and how many dogs do you have, and do you own a firearm? Stuff like that. Check, yes, no, 3, no, that's not about that at all. This is about what matters to you really. And why does that matter to you? And what does that look like? And how can we help make that happen? Right? And then what I put at the bottom of this form is my target clients are consultants, authors, experts, entrepreneurs, coaches, trainers, and speakers. Now, with the exception of entrepreneurs, almost all of those are about the same. They're just different forms of expressing the same thing. You have an expertise, you're a problem solver of sorts, and you go out and try to help other people through applying that problem solving ability, right? Entrepreneurs, that's different. They're solving a problem by creating a product, providing a service, or building a business that does something. But the thing they all have in common, consultants, authors, experts, entrepreneurs, coaches, trainers, speakers, they all make their own decisions. They're all success seekers, and they've made a commitment to succeed. And my target audience is people already making 100,000 or more per year, already good speakers, already knowledgeable leaders who have proven themselves, but they're looking to get more focused and go much, much further than they have before. So I'm looking for winners, not beginners. And I put people who are committed to being a successful, ethical resource. who is working to make the world better.
Mm.
That's my target audience. So that elaborate summary is kind of the foundation of what's Going Pro all about. And whether you've been in this for 3 rounds now, or whether you're just coming into it like the two of you, that's why I'm here for you guys.
Awesome.
I want your lives to be so much better at the end of this that you say, man, that was a turning point for me. Now, notice I didn't say, man, that Jim is something else. It's not about Jim. It's about the effect this process has in your life. So I'll get my payoff from the glow that comes from your halo. And by the way,
Jim, sounds great.
thank you. I appreciate that, Jay. Jay, how do you pronounce your last name?
Tammy,
Kami. Okay. Kamhi, Kevin. Kami. What's the origin of that? Where'd it come from?
my father came from the former Yugoslavia.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And before that, migration from Spain during the Spanish Inquisition, when the Jews had to,
Woo. Yeah.
leave. And so they migrated to Yugoslavia, I guess in the 1500s or whatever.
Wow.
And then he came here during the war, and it was originally pronounced Kamhi,
Yeah.
Kamhi. But then when I married my wife, she said, no, now you sound like a terrorist. It's Kamhi from now on. I said, all right, it's Kamhi.
Well, it's like Cathcart in Scotland is Kitcart, or
Oh,
Cathcart.
really?
Cathcart. It's a castle by the Cart River back in the 1500s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's still some ruins of it there, but the
Have you been there?
royalty is long gone. The first Earl of Cathcart has long since passed away.
Really? So you might be related to royalty. You might be
Well, I actually am. I'm directly related to King Charles.
nice.
Stuart family crest and the Cathcart family crest are the only crests on the walls of Paisley Abbey, where the cloth came from in Scotland, Paisley cloth. Evidently, the first Earl of Cathcart was the champion of Robert the Bruce.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I mean that's some serious stuff. But but the gap between them and me is like the gap between Mars and Earth.
Well, one thing you have in common, you both have a brave heart.
Ah, what a guy! What a guy! I am William Wallace.
Yes.
Thought he'd be taller. Yeah. One last thing, just news report. And I know that Jay, you're not able to be in La Jolla with us, but Kevin, I'm researching verbos, like Airbnb houses in downtown La Jolla to see if I can get one that will be kind of like the Key West setup. And if I can,
Yes.
then we'll cancel the Grand Colonial Hotel and switch to that. If I can't, then we'll stick with the Grand Colonial. But it's going to be a great meeting, either direction it goes. And I've already got some Hall of Fame speakers who have said, "Oh, I want to be there." So we're going to have
Awesome.
some drop-ins that'll drop your jaw.
Really?
Awesome.
Hey,
Dynamite.
Kevin, where are you driving from right now? It looks beautiful behind you.
So I have I fly out of Huntington, West Virginia. I live in Eastern Kentucky, so I fly in and out of Huntington, West Virginia, a little small regional airport. Go to Charlotte. So all my flights from here they just have like 3 flights a day that go to Charlotte. So I usually just catch a ride back from Charlotte. So I've been in Denver. I had a speaking engagement yesterday in Denver that I done. Coming home today.
I used to live in Tulsa, actually Broken Arrow, and I could fly out of Tulsa to almost anywhere that was near Tulsa. I could go to Oklahoma City or Dallas or St. Louis or Chicago, but I couldn't go to the West Coast or whatever back in the day.
The only place I can fly to is Charlotte.
There you go. Well,
unless I drive to Lexington.
That's the home
I drive to Lexington.
of more rocking chairs in one place than any place else I've been. So that's a good place to be. Well,
Yeah.
folks, I'm going to let you go now. I'll give you a chance if you've got a burning question you want to ask before we conclude, but I wanted to create a pretty tight, heavy content session today to give us all something to reflect on.
I think
Any
it's
quick
good. I'm
questions?
all good, Jim. I got,
Thank you, Jim.
at some point down the road, I'd like to ask you some more questions about the formula you came up with regarding find the needs, set the priorities, set the goals. I want to understand that more than what I from what I listened to in the video.
That's in the project planning guide, which is on our group page under files. So you go to group Facebook page, for our group, and scrolling across, it's got discussion and all these other things. Then it's got files. Click on that, and it's a drop down menu, and you can scroll through all those items. There are lots of them, and download the project planning guide, which is built on the work I did when I was in charge of leadership training for the USJCs back when we had a third of a million members, 350,000 members.
Wow.
Yep.
Well,
Cool.
good.
All
Well,
right.
good. I look forward next Friday. I'm going to be in Vegas and Utah next week. But I'm flying back late Thursday night, and I'll be here for our Friday meeting.
Dynamite. Thank you, Jay. I'm really happy you're in this.
I'm
Thank you.
happy to. Happy to. Nice to meet you, Ken.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you, guys. Have
Hey,
a good
guys,
one.
have a great week.
Kevin, any quick questions?
No, just doing good. Had a good speaking event yesterday. I sold a coaching client in Trinidad. I don't know if I told you I was working on that.
No, but good for you.
So, yep. So in the quick lube industry, I sold that. She signed the deal, sent it back to me last night. So when I get home, I'll do that. So as my first big coaching thing, I've done a 6 months deal with her, but I mean, it's pretty intense. I'm going to do quite a bit for her, but I think we're going to see great results, and she's going to be glad she was going to know I've been there when I leave, and she'll feel good about it. So
Outstanding. I had a conversation yesterday with a transmission builder out of Arizona,
okay.
and he's interested in having me do some consulting, kind of be his virtual vice president, which is one of my sub brands. And I just do a monthly retainer and, help him that way. But that's cool. And it's the same thing. It's kind of the auto aftermarket. And yeah, so we could talk a lot about that. Awesome. Well, God bless you. So go forth and multiply, my friend. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.